Hey, Kefir speaking here, and if you're new on my channel, all you need to know for now is that I love video games, and it has been my primary hobby for over 25 years. Want to know more? Visit my website or follow me on social media. All the links are in the description. Today I will discuss the topic of having a bad impression of the games we play at the launch, the problem we may encounter, how bad it can be and how it can discourage us from immersing ourselves in the game from the start. I also want to share a more specific case that affects me the most and discuss that sense of dissatisfaction. Stay with me and I'll explain everything, and if you agree, consider subscribing. I'll know we are on the same page. Furthermore, understand that I'm not just talking about bad or uninteresting games at launch. There are millions of them out there. I'm not a pirate, and if a project interests me, I'll buy it and I play it. If it turns out to be disappointing, well, that's okay. In other words, when you buy a new flavor of chips at the store, you don't steal it to try it out. But in this video, I won't be focusing specifically on buying games at launch. It's not about the money, really. Let's leave it aside. Games in the subscription services available for free from day one can also spoil the experience for gaming enthusiasts. Let's say in 2K23 I played the game Redfall through a Game Pass. It was mediocre. What can you do about it? Fix some bugs? And then what? Nothing else works. This is a game that might as well not have existed at all. The leadership needed to decide whether to abandon the project or hand it over to a capable people. There was potential, but the leadership decided to release it, mess up, and then just cover up the mess and run away. It's not a game, it's a failure. Do I get upset about bad, empty, or uninteresting games when I play them at launch? Absolutely not. There is another category of games where people have certain expectations from the project, often inflated or false expectations based on various factors. It could be the success of previous series or the sweet promises of marketers. Such games can be disappointing at launch when these expectations don't align with reality. But not for me. I always try to set aside any expectations and approach a game at launch pragmatically, relying solely on facts. Yes, sometimes trailers or memories of previous games may entice me, but I understand that it won't lead to a good outcome, so I temper my enthusiasm. For example, in Dying Light 2, they promised a storyline where you influence changes in the city. Yes, but marketers had lied to us. Expectations were inflated. Are they fixing it? No. And why would they? And how would they even do it? This is even worse than just a boring game, or at the very least, you feel deceived. As for whether I get upset at the start, not really. My pragmatism keeps me from buying into claims of gaming masterpieces before a game's release. Does it stop me from buying games at launch? Perhaps. But both of these categories at least make me cautious and prompt me read reviews for some time. But let's leave expectations behind. No need to dwell on them. Dying Light 2 has excellent parkour and visuals. I wanted to platinum it, but due to glitchy trophies at launch, bugs, I dropped it and forgot about it. 3 times I wanted to come back and reinstall the game, but no, it didn't happen. Someday, but not now. And here we smoothly transition to something else. Buggy games at launch. To the extent that they hinder gameplay and spoil the overall experience and undoubtedly frustrating. Let's take Cyberpunk 2077 as an example, or the same Redfall. It interferes with the enjoyment of the game to the point where you simply drop it due to impossibility of savoring the process. Do I get upset? Yes, but it depends on the game, of course. Redfall, not at all. That game is a lost cause. Cyberpunk? Yes, it's a pity for its potential. Does this deter me from starting game at launch? Definitely. I often find myself thinking while playing yet another buggy mess that next time I will definitely wait a couple of months. But this is still not quite enough to convince me to only start playing games after 6 months or even a year from their initial release. Okay, Kefir, what are you talking about? I want to talk about games that at launch and after, let's say, 6 months or a year become different projects. Games that are released and then undergo a process of patching and improvement. everything, literally, bugs, interfaces, mechanics, and even the storyline, for goodness sake. The most obvious and easy to understand example once again is Cyberpunk 2077. It was a terrible, shameful, dismal mess at launch, but now, 2 years later, the press says it's playable, so maybe it should have been sold only now. I didn't play at launch. I saw those hours of video with bugs and decided to wait. I waited a year, played it, and behold, developers still haven't finished it as for today. Want more examples? From the older days, there are Diablo, Sea of Thieves, Skyrim, and The Witcher 3. These games are now highly regarded to varying degrees, but at launch they were disasters. I love video games. I enjoy different gaming experience. I try not to spend more than 100 hours in the game for sure. I play, explore, form an opinion, give it a rating in my head, and then move on, occasionally returning for DLCs. The first emotions are always the best emotions. This applies to everything, not just the games. Callisto Protocol. I played it at launch, bought it at full price, completed it to platinum. Overall, I found some positives in this game, because perhaps I didn't have inflated expectations. But 6 months later, they release a blood mode. Okay, it's not like how Cyberpunk changed, but it would have added more fun. Why after 6 months? In a corridor game, which I had already completed at the highest difficulty level, at launch. I won't be playing it again. Why could I have played with this mode from the start? I understand. It's business. Cunning capitalist scoundrels. Crunch. Shoddy work. I work in a software development company myself, and I see it from the inside. I clearly see it's a dark spot from the perspective of marketing, business, and profit. But right now, I'm speaking as a gamer. I want to play a fully completed product. DLCs are DLCs, additional content that they add separately, and it's for those who enjoy the project. But game improvements, that's something else. You play a game at launch, you either complete it or drop it. You format an opinion about the game, and then the developers announce changes. I'm not talking about bug fixes here. I sometimes watch speedruns and I know that they can find bugs even in a year later. I'm talking about graphical improvements, the addition of modes, reworking quests and interfaces, making game better. And here I smoothly come to my point. Thoughts about how it's very risky to play games at launch in the modern world. I listed various problems, but my main concern hits me right in my gamer's heart. Years on PlayStation have taught me to choose games carefully, and the endless bugs have taught me. Let's take an excellent example that happened to me this year, No Man's Sky. I played this game 7 years after its release. I don't have the same hate or bitter aftertaste that it left with players at launch. I remember it as a great game where it truly felt like an astronaut and explorer. Hello Starfield! I jumped in the gameplay and played for 45 hours and had an excellent experience and emotions. Would it have been the same at launch? Definitely not. This has been bothering me for a long time. And I've often told my friends that this is not the way to go, but year after year it becomes a norm. Release something raw and then patch it up based on what people complain about the most. We are not talking about crowdfunding here. I understand early access, and by the way, I also try to avoid it. I wait patiently for the game to come out of early access. You might argue, but what's about supporting the project? Some developers need the money if they have an idea. And I agree, that's great and it's necessary for smaller studios. I supported Dead Cells, for example, or Demonologist, but personally I still want to play in a finished product, so I support and wait. Everyone has their own boycotts. I think this could very well become mine. What do you think? It's not an impulsive outburst. This thought has been occurring to me more and more often. And the final straw before making this video was the game Starfield. This game is raw. It couldn't have been in development for 5 or 7 years. It's a game with potential and scale that's been squandered. Do you think Starfield will be improved? Considering Todd Howard's appetite, they'll keep working on it, borrowing ideas from mods and selling it for another 10 years. After 5 years, it will be playable. They'll make a remaster, hello Skyrim. From the release of this video, I officially dropped Starfield. I can't. It's just too disappointing. Game Pass? Full price? No, not for me. I'll wait. Time will tell. You need to buy a game when it's well done. Okay guys, so this is pretty much it. I'm trying to be super clear with my thought, and let's discuss this in the comments. I don't want this to just be in some kind of silent mode. This is not what should happen with the games. So please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, let's share some comments, and see you in next videos.